Reusse and Company. It is Wednesday, and I do believe it's the 23rd of September, if I'm not mistaken. 7:08 in the morning. We have Tony Sutton with us. Tony is the chairman of the Minnesota Republican Party. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Governor Pawlenty has formed a PAC, making it more clear than ever that he is running for president, and he seems to be gathering momentum already.
Well, absolutely. I think that Governor Pawlenty has been doing all the right things that you need to do to, if you're exploring potentially a run at national office. I was at the RNC meeting about 6 weeks ago, and Governor Pawlenty was there, and he was like a rock star.
What other rock stars were there? Who else was treated like him? Was Palin there?
No, Palin was not there. Governor Pawlenty was the only major figure there, and it was kind of fun to be from Minnesota because people kept saying, "Wow, that's your governor." People were impressed. I mean, it was very pleasing to see that.
Now, would you agree that he's taken a bit of a run to the right, or do you think what we're seeing is the guy that's always been on this side of issues?
Well, I don't know that he's taken a run to the right so much as, a lot of what has been wrong with the Republican Party the last few years is we've actually drifted away from our core principles. Principles like fiscal responsibility, principles like limited government. I think Governor is just talking about a return to those core principles of what it means to be a Republican.
What has separated Tim from everybody else who would want to be in the position he is now in?
Well, I think, he's a fresh face from the Midwest. He's somebody who brings that sort of Minnesota, Midwestern sensibility that I think has been lacking in both parties, to be honest with you. I think that when people see him, they see a guy who as governor in what has been a traditionally liberal state, has been successful at the ballot box. He's been successful from a public policy perspective of, putting together, keeping the budget balanced without raising taxes, getting, when the Democrats couldn't get their job done in the legislature, he did it for them with the unallotments. And I think there's a lot of respect for a guy who can lead, but also has that sort of, aw shucks, Midwestern affability, Midwestern sensibility that I think appeals greatly to people.
I was at the Republican National Convention, and I thought Tim was very cautious. Was that him, or was that the role he was asked to play there?
I think that was more the role he may have been asked to play. I think that what you're seeing right now is you're seeing Tim Pawlenty at his best. I mean, you're seeing a guy who's a staunch fiscal conservative. Who believes strongly in limited government, sensible government, and I think that's what's coming forward. And so when people say, "Oh, he's taking a run to the right," I think what he's doing is he's talking about the core principles of the Republican Party. I mean, look, guys, people didn't vote for Barack Obama because the country suddenly became liberal. This is a right-of-center country. People voted for Barack Obama or just didn't vote because they lost confidence in Republicans. And Governor Pawlenty and others are helping return us to our core principles that people want. They want personal responsibility, fiscal responsibility, limited government, and that's what we're talking about. That's what Governor Pawlenty's talking about.
Well, us neutral guys like me, however, Tony, get a little nervous when we see him go out to meet these values people and turn it into a religious pep fest. I believe government is secular, and he makes me very nervous when all of a sudden he's pandering to the religious right, like he was this time. He was. There was a lot of time spent trying to instead of talking about fiscal conservatism and things like that, there was a lot of time talked about the, how this is a religious democracy and things like that.
Well, I think that Patrick, people that believe in traditional values are part of the Republican coalition, and it's not something where you say it's not about one or the other. It's about both. You have to bring people who believe in traditional values together with people who are fiscally conservative, and when we've done that in the past, we've been successful both nationally and here in Minnesota. I mean, Governor Pawlenty's own election victories, I think, have attested to the fact that he's been able to build a coalition of people who believe in fiscal conservatism, but also people who believe in traditional values. And I don't think it's pandering. I think it's just, that's part of our election coalition.
Two different. Would you agree that it's basically two different campaigns? A campaign for a nomination, and then a campaign in a general election. In both parties, the Democrats have to go. They have to get out there with their, get their base all fired up, and to get a nomination. And the same thing with the Republicans. You got to get the more hardcore base fired up to get the nominations. It seems to me, anyway.
Well, it kind of makes common sense. I mean, I don't look at it as two different campaigns, but just sort of the first phase of a long campaign. I mean, the first thing you've got to do is you got to get your friends behind you, whether you're running for president or you're running for city council. and so the first thing you do is you go to your friends and you try and get them fired up to support you. And that means you going out to Republican meetings and conservative meetings and getting them enthusiastic. So that once your friends are behind you solidly, then you go out to people who are undecided or aren't your friends and get them to vote for you. So it just kind of, you think about it, makes common sense. You got to get your friends behind you first in order to win.
How does someone decide they really want to go through that marathon? I mean, it's got to be the most draining experience in the world to wage that 24-hour, 2-year campaign.
Well, I don't want to get too philosophical here this morning, but I think it's amazing that anybody steps forward to do these things. And I think that the sort of eternal campaign cycle that we're in now is actually dissuades really good people from wanting to run. Not just for president. I mean, you look at the governor's race here in Minnesota. I mean, we're 12 or 15 months away, and we have 20 people running because it takes so long to build a campaign. And I think it's this 24-hour news cycle and this constant media demands has made this an eternal campaign. As soon as one campaign's over, the next one begins, and it's amazing that anybody puts themselves through it. I'm just thankful Governor Pawlenty is interested. I think he'd make a great president.
Tony Sutton is the chairman of the Minnesota Republican Party.